I paused at a metal bench to put my backpack down and fix my ponytail, doing my best not to look alarmed. As I'd just left the gym, my hair wasn't really messy enough to need fixing, but the pause allowed me a second to peek over my right shoulder at the wide concrete path behind me without looking too suspicious. To my relief and unease, however, I saw no one. Well, no one out of the ordinary. Dozens of college students were walking to their next classes, most wearing hoodies and jeans, as March was in the middle of another cold snap. No one stood out. No one even looked my way. Most were either looking down at their phones or staring blankly ahead, lost in thought. But just like last Thursday, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Or rather, followed. Unable to find anything out of the ordinary, I huffed and briefly closed my eyes. Then I reached out with my senses, searching the air around me for any magic that might be floating nearby. But again, I felt nothing. Nothing except the cold, dry air of an early Las Vegas spring. Of course, that didn't necessarily mean there weren't any supernaturals in the vicinity. Still, what else could he or she be? Whoever had been following me around the campus seemed to disappear and reappear too quickly not to be supernatural. Creating the illusion of invisibility would be a simple parlor trick for an experienced fae. And anyone with the money to do so could purchase a fae glamour. Elves couldn't disappear entirely, but they could often alter their bodies to somewhat blend in with the world around them. Heck, it could even be a shifter or vampire. They were fast enough to often appear invisible to the human eye. That thought made me shiver. I was no coward, but I really hoped it wasn't a vampire. Once my ponytail was fixed, I grabbed my bag and resumed my walk as I decided to try something else. A glamour, maybe, to make me look like another person? Or would a simple invisibility spell work? Even before the ideas were fully formed, however, I knew they wouldn't work. If I'd been a full-blooded fae or elf, either would have been feasible. But if I attempted either one, especially in broad daylight, I would just end up looking more conspicuous than I apparently already did. A snack shack stood at the corner of the path I was walking, right across from the education building. I hurried to its entrance and ducked inside, fighting my way through the crowd toward the back, where I could keep an eye on the front door. Unfortunately, that didn't do me any good either. There were too many people for me to identify any suspicious individuals in the mass of college students trying to buy chips, soda, slices of mass-produced pizza, and pre-made, pre-wrapped sandwiches before their next classes. Besides, I wasn't tall enough to see over the towering group of guys who had just walked in. They had to be on athletic scholarships because not a single one of them was under 6'3". So finally, I gave up, dug my pepper spray out of my backpack, and pushed my way back outside. Maybe, if nothing else, I'd lost whoever had been following me. And if not, along with several forms of martial arts, my parents had made sure I excelled in the art of pepper spray. But just as I stepped out the door, I heard my name called, and my entire body sagged with relief as Julia and Georgie hurried toward me, Julia's thick blonde ponytail blowing like a flag in the wind, while Georgie stuffed his hands in his hoodie pockets. "Why aren't you answering your texts?" Julia demanded. But Georgie adjusted his glasses as he frowned down at the small black can in my hand. "I think a better question is why she's walking around with pepper spray," he said, nudging Julia. Julia followed his gaze and gasped. "Everly!" she began. "Let's get some tea," I said quietly, forcing a big smile. "I'll tell you about it there."